in order for this to work, stats, dice, modifiers, rollover numbers, we need numbers. We need stats. So if we look at the basic D&D attributes, D&D has very simple attributes. It has 6. You have your strength, which is like your muscles. You have your dexterity, which is sort of your hardcore parkour, your finesse, your skill. Constitution, which is the most passive and basic one. This is basically your body's health, your overall hardiness and resistance to damage, even though it has nothing to do with your resistance to damage, mechanically, system-wise. You have intelligence, which is your book smarts. It's your ability to investigate, solve equations, recall knowledge, etc., and to bypass illusions. That's one people usually forget that it's about. Then you have wisdom. This is sort of your character's feel and sense of the world. It is most primarily used in perception checks, which utilizes your character's 5 senses to probably the most used skill check in the entire game of D&D, and I would argue probably a lot of TTRPGs, because that is a very, very easy DM tool to have the players interact with the world, the player, or the other players, characters, NPCs, yada, 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 yada. It's very easy. The other one, which players should use more and they don't, is insight, which for easy purposes is just your player's ability to tell if somebody is lying, just to get a read on them kind of thing. That's wisdom. And then somehow wisdom is also survival, which is looking for footprints, which doesn't make any sense to me, but the ranger needed something, damn it. And then nobody played the ranger, so the ranger didn't even use it. So I guess the fighter just needed some more shit, damn it. And then you have charisma, the all-consuming social stat of D&D. It is either your most important stat or it is your dump stat. Very similar to intelligence. If you're not a wizard, you probably don't have intelligence. If you're not a bard, you probably don't have charisma. I lied, paladins and warlocks exist. And people play them more than they do bards, so yeah. So 6 stats, and then those slowly translate out into everything else in the game. Very simple, very easy. Star Rail. It gets a little more complicated. For Star Rail, there is a shit ton of stats. There is a lot more than 6, I know. Crazy, right? I believe there is 13 different stats in Star Rail, which you have, and I'm not counting like the flat versus percent, but you have HP, you have your attack, you have your defense, you have crit rate, you have crit damage, you have outgoing healing, speed, effect hit rate, break effects, energy regen. Oh yeah, the elemental damage. Yeah. So there's a lot, and that's divided into flats and percents, and it is a lot, and it's very confusing because players basically don't have to manage it at all. What do you mean? You need relics in your substats so much, you need to pick the right light cone. Yeah, you are not managing your stats. You see the giant number that says attack and you put it on your character. Oh, but my character likes HP. You find the one that says HP and you put it on your character. You are not going into your, like some of you do this, but like the average player is not going into their spreadsheets and calculating their attack percentages based on their relics. It's not happening. They're not then going back to their passives and abilities and adding that new flat percentage to the other percentage and calculating that. You're not doing that. The game is doing it for you in real time, actively behind the scenes, and then happening in combat in real time. In a TTRPG, that is not what happens. In a TTRPG, you are the one who does every little bit of math on your own. Well, you're doing this online, you could just put it into a VTT and then it would do it automatically for you. I could. Maybe someday that'll happen. But I also, if I give this to people, I want it to be accessible to people just at a kitchen table, just at their desk, at home, on the couch. I want it to be something they can do outside of the internet. So it also needs to be something accomplishable without the aid of electronics. I think I just isolated almost every Zoomer. Long story short, the math that this game uses needs to be accomplished via pen and paper with your own head for anyone who is even like a slightly younger age. Needs to be doable. So the math can't be difficult. Luckily, D20 is not that hard. Most people can count from 1 to 20. and then adding simple numbers together, doing something like resistance, you know, for half, round up or down. Easy stuff. Easy, easy stuff. But we need to now translate the 13 some odd stats of Star Rail down to the easily handled 6 something stats of a TTRPG. So let's break it down here, okay? So what do we have here? Let's look at, so we have TTRPG stats, and then we're gonna have, what's that gonna be? So we're gonna have like a strength, we're gonna have a dex. By the way, this video was supposed to be like 10 minutes. That clearly did not happen. Charisma, and then we're gonna do, oh wait, I totally fucked that up. I need you, and you're gonna go up here. There we go. Can I... Now let's get rid of this to make some space to make it look a little better over there. And then we're gonna do Star Rail stats. And we're gonna have HP, defense, attack, and then we got crit rate, slash damage, healing, effect hit slash resistance, elemental damage, speed, break, and energy regen. There's a lot. There's a lot. So how the hell are we gonna click this down a bit? So we'll put the statistics we're gonna want to use right up here, but for now these are down here. There we go. So what do we need to do here? So let's think what we got, right? So attack is definitely strength. Dex could be attack as well, but Dex could also relate to crit rate and crit damage instead. Healing, effect hit rate and resistance is just wisdom. Elemental damage. This is where another like nifty little thing comes in, because even if you're a fighter, you have elemental damage, whereas in D&D, you really will only have elemental damage if you're a spellcaster. Speed, we probably will not worry about at all, because if it's a TTRPG, everyone's probably gonna have a flat 30 foot movement, and if it's 5 foot squares, you're moving 6 squares. If there is a speed stat, it would just change the number of squares you could move rather than your turn in order. Or if we do have a speed stat, maybe that's what you use for initiative instead of dex. And I know everybody loves their speed stat, so maybe we do keep speed. Energy regen. That probably will not be a stat. I like the idea of an ultimate. I really like the idea of like a 1 a day thing. If you build up your energy, I think that'd be really cool. Having like a custom ultimate you make for yourself for like when you really need to lay it on thick, as the kids say. HP and defense just sort of fall into con. Outgoing healing, I don't think would be... It wouldn't be a stat. If anything, I think that would be a feature. If your character was like an abundance character, they would get bonuses to healing. So I don't think that would be a stat in and of itself. So for stats, strength and dex are usually attack. Crit rate and crit damage aren't even a stat. That comes down to the dice, which I think is going to be what we do anyway for a D20. But all Star Rail players love their crit rates and their crit damages. So maybe what that is instead is, instead of needing a nat 20 to roll a crit, maybe when you increase your character's crit rate, instead of it going up by percentages, it goes up by flat numbers. So you would have a weapon that gives you like a +1 crit rate. And then instead of rolling a 20 on a dice, you would only need to roll a 19 or 20. And then you could build crit rate and just make it more likely that you roll a crit. As for crit damage, that's easy, just more dice. Now, something I want to avoid in this game that D&D does is how they handle weapons. I hate how 5th edition handles weapons because there's clearly weapons that are just better than others, which is unfortunate, but if you want to be a badass rogue, you'll probably never use a dagger ever, sadly. Why? Oh, but you can do melee and throw them, and it's like, okay, I could just shoot you with a bow. See, but it can't do melee. Yeah, but I'm a rogue. Why am I in melee if I'm using a bow? And then it's like, well, then what do you mean? And then it's like, well, if I'm going to be ranged, I'm going to be ranged. Rogues are pretty damn good at doing that. Better than the ranger. What? So let's tie it. Let me put some visual representation up here. So let's say con equals HP and defense. And probably effect resistance. I gotta change that. There we go. Oh, nope. I'm out of room. Sheesh. Wait, no, I'm not. Yeah, we're good. Never mind. So Constitution is HP and effect resistance. Let's go with Strength equals attack. So strength would equal attack. And break probably. If we end up doing a break mechanic. That one will be for another video. We'll figure out how to solve that. I'm just trying to get some basic ideas on paper, hear your guys' opinions, and then move on from there. Oh, it did change. I see what it changed now. It put charisma over there. Let's just backspace, put charisma back over here. That's funny looking now. So, strength is attack and break. And it would really be dex too, right? Okay, another thing. D&D's weapons are divided into their own damage dice, what dice they use, which is almost always going to be strength or dex. Very rarely do they use anything else unless you're a spellcaster or a weird subclass. And then I kind of want to avoid that because in Star Rail, the weapon you use does not matter at all. Everybody uses all kinds of shit. Like if you look at Fate Grand Order, there's only 2 archers in the whole game that use a bow and arrow. 3? I think it's 3. Anyways. All the rest of the archers don't use anything. There's a ruler that uses fucking... Or no, she upgraded to archer. Yeah, no shit. Jane, ruler, when she gets her beach skin, her summer skin, her archer weapon is fucking dolphins. She just throws dolphins at people. Like, Emiya throws swords, and then he very rarely uses a bow. But there he is. So I think your weapon should not be a determiner at all of specific things. I think your stat by itself should determine the damage, and your weapon is just sort of a tool to go there. So if anything, maybe tying this back in, maybe we do something like strength and dex would go back in there. For attack and break, maybe we do dice for crit rate and damage. As soon as I learn a spell, the dice would be the crit rate and damage. Oh, this is tough. This is very, very tough. Actually, con wouldn't even be effect resistance, would it? That'd be more of like a wisdom thing, right? So it'd be more like wisdom would equal effect resistance. Maybe even effect hit. Maybe. For spellcasting purposes, that's probably what it would be. Elemental damage. I That's another one I don't really know about. Probably just slap that up here with this. Healing effect, I think, would be based on like a path feature. Speed, maybe its own stat. Okay. Then intelligence. Because otherwise, that's all of them. Energy regen. Int might be certain skills. Like knowledge / skills, maybe? And then charisma is not gonna be, there's no social stat. So if anything, I'll toss charisma up here with wisdom and have something similar to that. And I think that's going to be it for now. This was about 20 minutes longer than I wanted it to be, but that's because I'm yapping about. So we have your basic 6 TTRPG stats. We have all the crazy Star Rail stats. I'm sure I missed something in there. And trying to translate them together, it's looking like strength and dex are going to somehow tie into attack, break, and elemental damage. Con will have something to do with your HP, your defense. Toughness, actually, that's a good thing we could put in there. Maybe con has something to do with toughness. Again, as soon as I learn how to spell. Let's just leave it out for now, fuck it. The dice will be what determines whether you crit, and then rolling dice will be more crit damage kind of thing. Effect resistance and effect hit, I think, is going to be for casters of some sort. So like maybe basing your character off. This is going to tie into whenever we do a weapon video based on however your character attacks. So I think if your character uses a weapon, whatever the stand-in for strength and dex, it'll be that stat. If your character is more of like a spellcastery type person, you know, maybe something more along the lines of like Lingsha, maybe something along the lines of, who else is like a spellcastery type character? Maybe like the memo people or the remembrance people or something. You know, anyone who's attacking with a melee weapon will use the stand-in for strength and dex. And anybody who's using weird magical shit is going to be wisdom and charisma. Like Aventurine's a good example, right? He never runs up and hits you with a melee attack. He literally conjures an object to smack into you. So maybe something a bit more like that is magically. So along those lines. Flats and percents, we're not even going to deal with that. That's some dumb shit. The last thing you want to do is put percents in a game of dice on pen and paper that people have to actively think about when they might be like 11 years old. Not happening. And intelligence, knowledge, and skills. Skills is that's going to be its whole own thing. We're still spitballing. Remember that. We're just spitballing for now. So I'm going to call it right there before I make this video any longer than I want it to be. So thanks for watching. If you guys enjoyed, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, join the Discord to keep up with any notes that might be happening on D&D or the Star Rail TTRPG stuff. Do keep in mind before you're doing your comments, this is not Star Rail and it is not D&D. It is just taking influence from them and it is going to be its whole own thing. Relax. But if you do have any ideas and inspirations that pull from other things, please leave a comment about them. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, criticisms, and/or witticisms about what I just said, leave a comment about it, please. A lot of people said they've done this before. How did it go for you? Did you do something weird? Did you do something similar? Oh, and to the people who were talking about how break would be turn skipping, terrible idea. Terrible idea. In a game where your turn can take anywhere from 10 minutes to 40 minutes to come back to you, having your turn skipped would be the worst fucking thing imaginable. It's easy in Star Rail because a turn is like 10 seconds. In D&D, it's like 10 minutes. So just leave out break, turn skip. That's crazy. I'm ranting, I'm rambling. Thanks for watching. Adios, have fun all.